So I've seen a lot of these rumors about Sony pretty much taking over everything at Bungie, and honestly, at this point, I think this might be a good thing. YouTube, today we're going to be reacting to Mint Blitz's video, The End of Bungie.
Bungie and Marathon news for the past few months, and after Sony paid $3.6 billion for the original Halo creators, they've seen nothing in terms of a return on their investment. Destiny 2 is over time losing steam and player base. That's not to say people aren't fans of the franchise anymore. They want a Destiny 3, the next chapter in the franchise. Many people think Destiny 2 has run its course. Quick side note, I'm testing Destiny 2 for the first time in a long time for an upcoming video. That is going to be interesting. Marathon, on the other hand, Bungie's new title, was announced to be delayed indefinitely. The tentative release date for Marathon is end of fiscal year 2025, which is the end of March 2026. Even Marathon, as you guys have no doubt heard by now, that's had its fair share of drama. Stolen art, developers not being listened to, executives making broad sweeping decisions that hurt their games overall. It's been negative after negative after negative, and Sony has had enough. From the research that I always do, and I've been constantly doing videos as this situation has evolved over the years, this started back in 2024. Sony acquires Bungie and shrunk the studio from 1,300 employees down to 850. This was followed by another 220 roles being removed from the studio, and with that round, 150 of those roles moved to Sony directly. This to me was the first consolidation of Bungie being absorbed into Sony completely. The only glimmer of positive news I have with that round of layoffs was that the ex-Halo music creator and Destiny 2, Michael Salvatore, he was hired back after being laid off last year. I don't know what Bungie was thinking, firing a man as talented as that, a veteran of the industry with a stellar portfolio. They actually had the audacity to fire him without any notice. Truthfully, I'm surprised he even came back after how they treated him. I really hope he demanded a substantial wage increase to make up for being fired. To give extra context to that, by the way, back in 2024, Bungie executives and leadership were laying off staff specifically so that when stock the employees had in the company matured, so Bungie stock itself, when it was actually going to be worth something, and if an employee left with that stock matured, Bungie would have to pay them out. They didn't want to do that. They wanted to keep the money for themselves, so they fired their staff. They weren't even given a courtesy letter. They just tried to log in one day and found their email access revoked. Fast forward to this year, and I've always said that Bungie will probably never be the same again. I have quite a few friends who work over at the studio, and the sentiment has been shaky at best for the last 6 months. For many developers at the studio, there's not much they can do personally to help the situation, as it's outside their job description. They're assigned tasks, they complete said tasks, and I understand as a day-to-day developer, it's difficult and hard to speak up as you could lose your job. Losing a job in America is especially bad, as it can also mean you lose your health insurance. It is up to management to steer the ship, and it's clear they haven't done that for a long time. The big headline today is Bungie is to be integrated into PlayStation Studios after Destiny 2 and Marathon underperformed. Bungie is set to lose its independent status.
Yeah, so I've seen a lot of these rumors about Sony pretty much like taking over everything at Bungie, and honestly, at this point, I think this might be a good thing because as the title reads, the end of Bungie, I think this is a new era of Bungie, but not something that we've seen before. I think Sony's going to take over and maybe either propel us into the new era, or who knows what's going on. But I can definitely tell there's a big shift going on in the Bungie community. And as you can see, year by year, or slowly but surely, Sony has definitely been taken over
and become fully integrated into PlayStation Studios following the underwhelming performances from Destiny 2 and the upcoming Marathon. Bungie wanting to be independent was the very reason as to why they left Halo and Microsoft to start Destiny. Bungie wanted to be free, to not be dictated into being the Halo studio. After making the agreement to make Halo 3, Reach, and ODST, they could move on and have their independence. It is now being taken away due to the horrible decisions by the executives made over the last 2 years. The most notable example of the most horrible thing Pete Parsons, Bungie CEO, has done was back in 2023. He said that layoffs were partially due to the quality miss of the Destiny 2 DLC, Lightfall, but then extra information came out that showed executives purposely tanked the DLC. The exact quote read, "Leadership wanted it to fail." Can you imagine how pathetic of a person you have to be to purposely tank your own company's major DLC? This isn't just a video game in this situation. These are people's jobs and livelihood. It was horrible. It's yet another case of executives being out of touch with massive egos, thinking they know better than everyone else,
I did not
when in
know that.
actuality the developers, the players, and their audience are screaming at them to change before it's too late. Now it is.
That's
And
pretty
I hope
scummy.
Sony absolutely acts as the delusional leadership at the studio. Do what Microsoft did with 343 Industries and wipe the slate clean, as it's clear the leadership at Bungie don't have the players' best interests at heart. Hell, they don't even have their employees' best interests at heart. Need I remind anyone that Pete Parsons, the CEO, spent millions on cars every year while developers
You don't gotta remind us,
got
bro.
the axe. To give more context to the news today as to why Sony is taking away Bungie's independence, it's that back in 2022, Sony acquired Bungie for $3.6 billion. The agreement itself allowed the developer to operate independently, provided profitability targets were met. As you can no doubt tell, these targets were not met at all. The PlayStation CEO said directly today, Bungie's independence is getting lighter, and the studio is shifting into a role where it's becoming more a part of PlayStation Studios. Integration is proceeding. I paraphrase as English is their second language, but you get the general idea. The PlayStation CEO went on to say, in the long term, you can see this as an ongoing process. So the direction is to become part of PlayStation Studios. Bungie will continue to exist as a studio, but it will operate as a first-party developer, creating titles for Sony's core audience. This is a massive, monumental day for Bungie as a studio, as if things continue to go the way they're going, the entire studio could be dissolved completely after Marathon's release.
Oh, wow.
The line that says, in the long term, you can see this as an ongoing process, so the direction is to become part of PlayStation Studios. I know by no means is it even close to the old classic Halo Bungie, but it still makes me sad in a way. Speaking of Marathon, by the way, the release, the CEO also said they're on track to release it, things haven't changed, and the game will be going ahead. Marathon is being tested right now as we speak, but I have no idea what changes have been made, and I can only hope the players and the broader gaming audience have been listened to. It will forever be crazy to me that Marathon has a rich history of lore, backstory, and already existing strong narrative elements. Add on that Bungie always used to do amazing campaign and multiplayer titles, and then you come up with an extraction shooter that feels clunky, slow, and the story of that even hasn't been written yet. I mean, come on. The Sony CEO also stated that the performance of Concord, which lost hundreds of millions of dollars, definitely factored into decision making. I'd
What a
say
game that
Sony
was
and
gonna be.
PlayStation are worried that Marathon will be another such case. It very well might be. Even if every perfect change is made
Probably.
to Marathon, there's no guarantee the game will succeed. So many bridges have already been burnt that I genuinely don't know if there's anything that can be done to save it. My guess is a Splitgate style scenario, an initial population at launch, and then it tapers off over time. The only thing that may save the game is that it has the Bungie name. What Sony said directly about Marathon as a whole is that it will probably launch some point before April 2026, although that's not a commitment. If you were curious as to when Bungie is going to show off more new things for Marathon, it'll be in autumn for Americans, so spring for those of you in the Southern Hemisphere. The final thing that the Sony CEO said was that if this launch is cancelled, so if Marathon does get cancelled and doesn't come out, we would need to do a revision of the valuation of Bungie. However, as of now, this is not expected. And that's it. What a day. Bungie has lost its independence. A day I saw coming after the recent history and controversy, but still, it closes a chapter in one of my favorite gaming companies. Growing up, I loved Bungie and the classic
still
Halos
love
that
Bungie.
released. Hell, even Destiny 1
Bungie
still
games.
had that charm to me. It's evident over time things changed for the worst. Sony was losing money because of it, so they're stepping in to make good on the money they invested. I genuinely wonder if Destiny 3 will ever happen now. Will Bungie
Hey man,
even
who
make
knows?
a new IP again? Are they going to be able to make their own games anymore? Or is Bungie going to get turned into a glorified support studio for the PlayStation Network? Either way, it's a big day in gaming. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank
Marathon did not meet its mark, and it's very unfortunate. Very, very negative reviews. It looks like it's dead on arrival. As a Bungie consumer, growing up as a Bungie fan, this is just really sad to see. And seeing one of your favorite companies just go from the top and just seeing them plummet, and just being a shell of their former selves, it really does suck. You know, here's to the future. I'm hoping Bungie and Sony can somehow make Destiny 3 happen, because at this point, I don't think Marathon's going to save Bungie. And quite frankly, I think Sony's just going to take over, and, you know, they're going to just fix what they can. But I'm really, really hoping for Destiny 3. You know, I'm sure that's not the exact answer we all need, but it's better than what we got right now. And let me know in the comment section below, how do you feel about the Bungie sentiment and how it feels to be a Bungie fan, because right now it's a very grim feeling. And yeah, we'll catch you guys in the next one. Hey, YouTube, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, or continue to watch the videos because they help. And yeah, shout out if you have a nice Gamer Subs cup like this. I just added that to make the outro look a little bit cooler, but thanks for watching.